I'm trying this again for part 3, and now I'm at my house on my couch. Josie, come here. And this is my dog, Josie. She's a bloodthirsty Schnauzer Poodle mix. Anyway, we're back on 183. In the woods, too, a man casts off his years as a snake is slothful. Stop. And at what period soever, his life is always a child. In woods is perpetual youth. Within the plantations of God, a decorum and sanctity reign. A perennial festival is dressed, and the guest sees not how we should tire of it in 1,000 years. So, just as a snake, as it grows up, gets rid of its skin, sheds its skin, and grows into a new one, that's what happens to this guy when he goes out into the woods. Not literally, his skin doesn't fall off because that would be disgusting and excellent reason to not go into the woods. But he feels like he's kind of reborn and youthful again. There's nothing that can befall me in life, no disgrace, no calamity leaving me my eyes, which nature cannot repair. So he said basically no matter what's going on with him, he can always feel better if he goes out into nature. Standing on the bare ground, my head bathed in the blithe air and uplifted into infinite space, all mean egotism vanishes. I become a transparent eyeball. I'm nothing. I see nothing. I don't know if you remember in Into the Wild, McCandless talked about a spiritual journey that he went on to kill the false being within. When he talks about being a transparent eyeball, what he's talking about is, for instance, if you go out in the middle of winter into nature, right, it's pretty, but what a lot of people think when they're out there is how cold it is and how uncomfortable they are. And it's that feeling and those things that they're thinking which prevent them to really pay attention to what's going on around them. They're paying attention to what's going on inside of them. So when he goes outside, he kind of forgets about all the superficial things and the things that he was worried about before he went in. And if you look at that picture on 180, not that picture, this picture, that was a cartoon that somebody made of that idea. I thought it was kind of silly. Anyway, the currents of the universal being circulate through me. I am a part and particle of God, and the nearest friend sounds then foreign and accidental. So he talks about he gets so kind of caught up in the moment when he's out in nature that even if he hears the name of someone he knows, it sounds like a sound that he's never heard before. To be brothers, to be acquaintances, master or servant is then a trifle and disturbance. He thinks about all the people he knows and the relationships he has, whether they're friendly relationships or power structure relationships, like between he and his boss, and all of that seems to go away, and they're just people. In the wilderness, I find something more dear and connate than in streets or villages. In the tranquil landscape, and especially in the distant land of the horizon, man beholds somewhat as beautiful as beautiful as his own nature. When he thinks about what's in him, right, the feelings he has, the thoughts he has, and then he looks at nature, he sees that kind of reflected there. Now, this is a very weird part. The greatest delight which the fields and woods minister is a suggestion of an occult relation between man and vegetable. I am not alone and unacknowledged. They nod to me, and I to them. The waving of the boughs in the storm is new to me and old. The occult relation of man and vegetable. Now, occult means hidden. Usually, when I teach things, I don't say things I don't mean to, but one year when I taught this, I talked about the occult hidden relationship between man and vegetable, and I said something to the effect of, forget it, I'll save that story for when I'm in class. It's a stupid little analogy, but he talks about the trees wave to him in the breeze, and then he waves back at the branches. Um, it's a good story. I just don't want to film it. Anyway, its effect is like that of a higher thought or better emotion coming over me, and I deemed I was thinking justly or doing right. Yet it is certain that the power to produce this delight does not reside in nature, but in man or in the harmony in both. So it's not nature itself, and it's not people themselves. It's the combination of nature and people which produces this effect. It is necessary to use these pleasures with great temperance, for nature is not always tricked out in holiday attire, but the same scene which yesterday breathed perfume and glittered as for the frolic of nymphs is overspread with melancholy today. So he said, you gotta be careful, because nature doesn't always put on its best, right? Everyone likes to go outside when it's 65 and sunny in the spring, and everyone likes to go for a nice walk on a beautiful fall day when the leaves are turning, but sometimes it's gray, sometimes it's muddy, sometimes it's stormy, and he thinks it's important to go out into nature, even in bad weather like that, because all of those, bad weather events and bad seasons with the bad weather correspond to different things we go to. Nature always wears the colors of the spirit. To a man laboring under calamity, the heat of his own fire hath sadness in it. So it said nature has all the colors of the spirit. Nature can demonstrate everything that people can feel. Then there's a kind of contempt of the landscape felt by him who has just lost by death a dear friend. and the sky less grand as it shuts down over less worth in the population. So even when times are tough, even when things are not going well and you're not feeling well, it's not that nature understands. It's that the different seasons and different things you can experience in nature can kind of show that and reflect the same things you're feeling. So now, after that, you're going to turn to page 187 and look at the little eyeball guy again, and you're going to answer questions 2 through 6. And then the substitute teacher has one more thing for you to do. So I will be back tomorrow, and I will see you then. I like aqua pauses. Bye.